We'll get to the Buffs. We'll get to the Rams coming up at 1:15. But I want to talk a little bit more about the running backs. And I asked you, maybe the answer to the running back problem or question is something that we just have not seen yet. To get into that question, I want to hear Bo Nix talk about what he saw on Thursday night, the play of Audric Estime and Blake Watson.
They played really well in the first half, gave us a spark, especially in the first drive. They both had a few good runs. It's good to see those guys, they got their opportunity. We've seen it from Audric and with Blake, he's been practicing really well, so he got his opportunity and ran the ball really well. That's going to be good for us moving forward.
So there's my question, Cecil. Is that the answer? Something we haven't seen? Is the duo actually Audric Estime and Blake Watson and not Javonte Williams and Jaleel McLaughlin, or not Javonte Williams and Audric Estime? Maybe the duo that is the answer for this are the two guys that we haven't really seen get a chance yet in Blake Watson and Audric Estime.
Yeah, and I would love to see more of a chance for both of those players. Blake Watson specifically, though, and let's just start there. Blake Watson doesn't need to come off the field. Jaleel McLaughlin does. Audric Estime does, because you don't really want Audric out there for pass-catching downs.
But do you really trust Blake for pass blocking? Or just don't ask him to?
That's where in college he was very good about that.
Oh, okay.
Now, he's a Memphis back, and if we look yesterday, I know Patrick Taylor didn't do much for the 49ers, and they did lose to Miami, by the way.
Oh, they did?
Yeah. I think there's like 6 Memphis backs that are in the league right now.
Wow.
Yeah, you wouldn't think about it, but like Kenneth Gainwell and Tony Pollard, like Antonio Gibson, like Memphis backs are out there. They got one.
It's like CSU wide receivers.
Right.
Wait a minute. He went where?
Right. So Blake Watson, he's one of those guys. And I'll tell you this, just because, college programs, you try to find guys that are kind of like the guy you used to have.
Mm-hmm.
Think of Tony Pollard as the Titans lead back, or Antonio Gibson as a part of a rotation with Ramondre Stevenson with the Patriots. Why am I bringing this up? Because they're all good at pass pro. And going back to his Memphis tape and talking to him at the Shrine Bowl and watching him in linebackers versus backers drills, Blake Watson is good at pass protection. I don't know that answer pro-wise because, he was a little bit banged up in training camp. We didn't get to see everything. We haven't seen him much on the field during the regular season.
Yeah.
But what I saw, I like. And I know he's got a 3-down skill set, and I know he's a converted wide receiver. He can run routes like a receiver. So you think what you're doing with Marvin Mims is cute as the Joker? That's awesome. That's great, but Marvin's still not a runner. Blake Watson is a runner and a converted receiver. So you can do all the Joker stuff that you want to do that you can't do with Marvin. You can do a little bit of it. I'm glad they're doing some of it. But Blake Watson is actually the answer if he can play up to his potential.
Yeah. I wonder if, and I don't feel like this is like a theme across the board. Maybe it's something that's just with the coach. And you see, like in the NBA, there's a lot of coaches that don't trust young guys coming out, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, he's not going to play
Malone.
his first year. Michael Malone is the best example. It's literally only been Christian Brown that he has trusted in that. Is there any of that to Sean of just being the old Freudian slip, old school kind of coach that he is, I just don't trust the guy enough, and I don't know that I can. It's weird to even ask. Like, can he earn enough trust through OTAs and camp to actually make it matter during the regular season?
No.
And then the question, I think you're right. I was going to say no too, but then how do you earn that trust? Like, how do I get this without that?
Right, because in practice, you're not really going to be going at it like
there's
that.
There's no tackles or breaking of.
Right. So if you're Blake Watson, did the NFI stint to begin training camp just put you behind the 8 ball for this entire season? Would they have been in the same spot? Would, instead of Tyler Bidet getting a chance to do something, would that have been Blake Watson? I think the answer is yes, because he was ahead of him. He made the 53-man roster. Tyler Bidet did not, and now Blake's back on the practice squad. You're just lucky no one's stolen him.
Yeah.
You're lucky that, and he can choose, by the way, if someone says, hey, the Cowboys want to sign you to the active roster, you can choose to stay.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So, even if it is a upgrade?
An upgrade, yes. You can choose to stay. And he was well paid. Kev, you can look up the number if you want, but he was well paid as an undrafted free agent. Blake Watson got a bunch of money, whole lot of money. And now he must see something in staying here because teams already know about Blake Watson. And what he showed on Thursday, teams are just going to want Blake Watson. Mm-hmm. You're lucky that you have him. Now start using the kid.
See, I wonder if this could be a credit to Sean Payton. of, hey, stay here. You are a part of our future plans.
Right.
And I'm going to find 3 or 4 games to give you an active, you'll be active, which gives you a game check, and it's a big pay raise. They did it. Didn't they do it last year with one of the quarterbacks? Who was like the third string quarterback last year? DiNucci? No.
Ben DiNucci?
Was it DiNucci? Remember they'd bring him up for like 2 games so he gets like a game check.
Sure. Right.
That's something that players, you ride with a coach that does that for you.
Yeah, well, and if you're Blake Watson, he's kind of betting on himself by staying here because you see what Alvin Kamara did with Sean Payton. And if there's any back that is close to Kamara, so don't at me, bro, I'm not saying that Blake Watson is Alvin Kamara. But if I just look at the skill set for all of them, is Jaleel McLaughlin like Alvin Kamara? No.
Absolutely not.
Is Audric Estime like Alvin Kamara? No. I'm not going to talk about Javonte. He's not going to be here next year. Blake Watson is.
Mm-hmm.
Blake Watson is. And he doesn't need to come off the field. So get him up. In fact, your maybe disservice or misstep that you've had with Sean Payton this year is you didn't do your damnedest to get Blake Watson up and going as soon as possible.
Yeah.
He could have been your answer. He still can be. And obviously I believe in the kid. But I know he's got skill, and I know the Broncos need a running back in a bad, bad way.
Yeah, that's the understatement of 2024. A bad, bad way for sure.